Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to Breakdown. I did that on purpose. I knew the camera was rolling. Um, Today I want to talk about some interesting WCW topics, and I like talking about WCW because I think a lot of people don't do it, and I don't know if because they just don't want to acknowledge that. And people tend to live in the past, and people just want to not. They just want to ignore people that want to talk about WCW all the time. But I loved WCW. I did. I really did love, and even at the end, I tried to watch it, but it just got so horrible that like the Vince Russo was on screen. I'm like, oh god. But today I necessarily don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about during the Attitude Era, and I was trying to remember the time frame last night as I was watching World War III. So that review will probably be coming very very soon as I was watching it last night. Um, but I wanted to kind of talk about some of the things that shocked me during that time, random topics about certain wrestlers who jumped ship to either WWE or WWF at the time and to WCW that kind of changed their gimmick and wondered why. Because you technically can have the same gimmick, but you just got to change it up a little bit. So legally, you're not the same character. So that's the only thing you got to do. And you still wouldn't have to change it. The biggest one about that I want to talk about today was Mark Marrow. So, if anybody's watched WCW, you remember Johnny B. Bad. Johnny B. Bad was a character that I believe Mark Marrow may be his real name, or it could be like Mark Williams or something. I don't remember. Um, but Mark Marrow was Johnny B. Bad, and he would have put makeup on his face. He'd wear tassels. He'd have a glitter gun and all this other stuff. And he was super over with the crowd. Like he was really, really over. The fans loved him. I think that if given other people would have been in charge of WCW, he probably could have been in the main event a few times and could have challenged for the world title and probably could have won legitimately. And I think that when he went to WWE, I'm not sure what that discussion was about, but he totally came in as a different guy. And I think looking back, I'm just like, why didn't he not just show up and basically change his name? He could have called himself Mark Marrow, whatever he wanted to do, but still came out exactly like Johnny B. Bad. He could have changed a few things, but I mean, he could have called himself something else. Um, I don't know what he could have called himself, but I mean, I think he probably could have called himself Mark Marrow, or could have came up with something clever to, kind of still be the same character. And I think that if you just think about this, if he would have came in as Johnny B. Bad in the WWE, WWE reeks of those kind of gimmicks. They would have got that guy over, and he would not even had to do anything. He would have been already over with the fans if Johnny B. Bad showed up, same gimmick, showed up on Raw and just came out. But instead, I think they ran vignettes about the Wild Man Mark Marrow and all this other stuff, and I'm just thinking, why? And I didn't really think about it back then, I don't think, but I did kind of wonder like why they were calling him the Wild Man, why was he going down this path? And I think that the path of resistance was there because he had to create basically a whole other gimmick. He got over for a decent amount of time, but I just think that if he would have came in as Johnny B. Bad, it would have been as a different character, but same as the same gimmick. He could have probably gotten over like quicker, faster. Could have been in that main event scene possibly. I don't think he would have been, but I think he could have got some title shots. I think he could have had a chance, to be that guy. And he could have slowly just kind of removed the stuff, but stayed as that character, and he would have got over. I think they did a lot of hokey stuff with him. I've heard that he was kind of a butthead behind the scenes, but I mean, I would too. If like, I just wonder what the discussion was. Can I come in as this character? And if they said no, but if it was his decision not to come in like that, kind of dumb, kind of dumb, because that's what you're known as. That's what people loved you as in WCW. So whatever. Yeah. It also kind of surprised me that like when they had so this was 1995. I was watching World War III, and if you remember right, that was the goofy time in WWE. But there was a lot of wrestlers that jumped ship around that time because '92 you still had like Boss Man, Hacksaw, a bunch of his wrestlers were still in the WWE. Macho Man, Kevin Nash and stuff like that. But Kevin Nash was there during that goofy time. He didn't come over until I think '96, '97. So at this time, I just looked at this and I was like, they had to just jump ship. Like, they referenced Luger coming in on Nitro, and then Bobby Heenan was there. I know Bobby Heenan was not, there when he debuted. So shortly after, like, I mean, it was like three pay-per-views after the original Nitro that, or two or three pay-per-views. Yeah, three pay-per-views because this was, I think, the third pay-per-view after Nitro debuted. Heenan had showed up. Macho Man showed up. And I'm pretty sure Macho Man. I don't think he was the first. No, he might have been there actually. I think Macho Man might have jumped ship before Nitro showed up. And I know Hogan, I know did as well, showed up before Luger showed up because they were in the initial episode, I think, fighting in the ring with Luger, wondering like, why are you here and all this other stuff. But it just surprises me that Duggan was there, the Big Boss Man was there as Big Bubba Rogers, even IRS like jumped ship, like VK Wall Street. And I don't remember which of these people came over before Nitro started, but a lot of these wrestlers probably jumped ship like close to or around the time that Nitro started, and they kind of knew that there would be a war, I think, between these two companies. And it's interesting just to think back and go, they were in the WWE like probably 2 or 3 years prior to this. And there was so much jumping ship in the WWE and WCW days, or WWF and WCW days, that was kind of nostalgic for people showing up on the other show, and whatever. And it kind of goes me onto the topic of Rick Rude, where Raw was recorded, and he was on Raw, and then I think he had a verbal contract with Vince saying, yeah, I'll stay here, and then he left and went to WCW, and that may have been what took so long for him to go in the Hall of Fame this year, is because they really probably didn't want to. They were probably kind of mad, but I mean, he didn't really do. I don't think he really did that much. I mean, he kind of look at him; he probably looks like a jerk, but behind the scenes. But I mean, he could have been a jerk. Who knows? Could have just been a couple verbal agreements that he just didn't agree with Vince McMahon or didn't like the way he was going or got tired of being with DX or whatever and just left. But he ended up being with the NWO one night and everything. It was just funny though, like how like that kind of stuff is what fueled the Monday Night Wars. Jericho debuting on Monday Night Raw, huge debut with The Rock, bantering back and forth. Just different people showing up, and I think I enjoyed the early days of WWE when people would jump ship, and you're like, why is he here? Because I remember watching Mick Foley come to WWE. I'm like, why did they let this guy go? Like, this guy was huge. He could have been something at WCW. They dropped the ball in WCW with this guy. And I always thought, like, this guy's going to be big. He's going to be big because he was big in WCW. They just didn't push him farther than what he should have been. But it really does surprise me that some of these people were let go by WCW, especially Steve Austin. Very, very surprising. As long as he was in the company, they didn't see anything in him. I mean, really? You didn't see anything in Stunning Steve Austin. Even though Hogan came in, you couldn't see that you were sitting on gold right in front of you, and that him and Pillman were amazing characters that could have drew big money with Hulk Hogan and stuff. Just being Stunning Steve Austin. I mean, that character was amazing. I mean, and then let alone he could have did something to the same effect as Stone Cold in WCW. But Bischoff, whoever was booking and stuff, didn't see that. Dusty Rhodes or whoever. And I kind of wonder if they could go back in time and change things, what they would have done. Because I think Steve Austin probably would have been one of the ones. And, probably not Brian Pillman, because he probably, I don't know. I think he had his demons, but, I kind of hope he goes in the Hall of Fame someday. I think he will. It'll just win. That's the time. That's the question, I guess. I'm talking out my butt now for some reason. That was like didn't make sense what I just said there. But yeah, it's just I last night watching World War III, just kind of reflecting back, a 1995 pay-per-view and seeing all these people that like, where do these guys go? Like what happened? Like these guys just disappeared off the face of the earth, or they appeared in WCW and then never came back to WWE. It's like crazy, like just insane. Seeing Duggan and Big Bubba Rogers wrestle in World War III, that was really cool. They had feuds at WWE, and Bull Nakano was on there as well, which I'm pretty sure this was after her run in WWE, because I think she had a few of the Lunger Blaze and probably left. I mean, I don't think it was after. I want to say it was before, or I think it was after she did her stint in WWE. She wrestled with Lunger Blaze. um, and tried to win the title, didn't win the title, and then whatever. Um, but yeah, there's so many moments between guys and girls showing up on the other promotions that kind of surprised me. I'm not tired. Why am I yawning? Anyways, it's weird. But yeah, it's just I wanted to kind of just shoot the breeze in this video and talk about some of the stuff that I was questioning with myself last night. Like, what happened to these people? And if this guy would have went to WWE under this character and not changed his character to be so stupid, he probably could have got over. And Johnny B. Bad was one of the guys that I thought like kind of dumb. Diamond Dallas Page is another one too. Like they didn't need to change his gimmick when he went to WWE, but I think he was already at the end of his career. Um, but I mean, just think if he would have jumped ship like near the end, if he would have jumped ship and went to WWE, I think he could have did a lot. He could have did a lot. He would have probably been a big star before he, would have to retire. And I can only imagine what uh, storylines they could have came up with him back in the day, with him being in the WWE when WCW was bought out. Um, I mean, him being in the WWF before the buyout of WCW. I think that would have been a little interesting because then you see guys like Booker T and everything come over, and they would have had feuds probably beforehand, and things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I also kind of think like they dropped the ball with Harlem Heat. They could have did something there with bringing them both into the company. I don't think they brought Stevie Ray into WWE. I don't think. I think they dropped the ball there. I know Booker T was the world champ. I think at the time when he came into the company and they bought it out, but I think that they could have brought Harlem Heat in as a great tag team and had them feud with the Dudleys and Hardys and things like that because they are a very very good tag team, and I think that probably will be one of my videos coming up is tag teams that should have been around in the Attitude Era, because that or whatever when after the buyout, because it was definitely they're one of those teams that I still like to this day. I also like Doom, which was Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Um, and I think Ron had, I don't know what Ron was doing at the time of this pay-per-view that I watched last night because I know that he had did all the world title stuff and everything before this, and this was the Hogan era, and they came in, and all these guys that would even have a shot, like no more, no more, like guys like DDP and Simmons and um, I don't know what trying to think of the other wrestlers, Big Boss Man and or Big Bubba Rogers and VK Walsh. Like if they had any chance in hell of getting a title shot, it was done when Hogan walked through the door because Hogan was going to run the main event scene and they weren't going to get a spot. Interesting too that Benoit wrestled Kensuke Sasaki, I think, on this one. Um, Horrible bumps during this match. It was horrendous. Some of these bumps were just horrible that Benoit took and that Sasaki took. So. Um, I know a lot of people have different opinions of Chris Benoit, but without a doubt, he was a tremendous athlete. And I think that if he would have came over earlier, um, maybe he would have been okay, but maybe the same thing would have happened at the end. I don't know. Just a lot of what ifs, I think, in talking about WCW. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk the crap about this and leave any comments down below about any guys you thought you thought should have kept like kind of the same gimmick when they came over or was over and WWE. One of them actually, before I quit the video, one of them was kind of Kevin Nash. He came in as Shawn Michaels' bodyguard, and in my opinion, I wonder why they didn't get DDP and Kevin Nash as Vinny Vegas and Diamond Dallas Page and brought them in as a kind of a stable. Because who was the other guy? There was another guy in the group too. Ramon. Yeah, it was Scott Hall. They were together in a group, I think, in WCW like a long time ago when he was feuding with Johnny Flamingo, and DDP was kind of, or was it DDP? No, they were with Johnny Polo. That's what it was. Johnny Polo had Nash and whatever. So if they would have brought, or what was his name? Scotty Flamingo. There we go. Scotty Flamingo, Vinny Vegas, and Diamond Stud. There you go, the Diamond Stud. They were in a little group together in WCW, and I kind of wondered. One thing I did kind of wonder about is why didn't they bring them in as a group? They could have probably brought them in as a group and would have been kind of interesting in WWE, but I don't know. What ifs? A lot of what ifs, and I think it would have been interesting. But I think Raven had to have been born because Raven was this huge gimmick that he made a decent amount of money off of. So, oh. But I kind of wonder if they would have brought Nash in as Vinny Vegas, if it would have been better for him. I think it would have been cool because it had like a gambler gimmick or whatever, shaking the dice, do the snake eyes on the turnbuckle, which he did he did as Diesel, but they called it something else. No, I think they did call it snake eyes in WWE for some reason. Um, which is funny because you look back and like, why are they calling it snake eyes? It makes no sense, but it's kind of an homage to his previous gimmick that he did in WCW. Um, but kind of cool that he did that. And Ramona's Diamond Stud, I think could have been great if he would have came in as kind of that too. And he kind of did. Like that, the gimmick didn't really change. But Vinny Vegas, I mean, it changed. He was kind of a loud mouth and cocky and everything like that. And when he came in as Diesel, he was more of like the silent, strong type when he first came in and was behind Shawn Michaels all the time. And I don't know. There's some weird things like you wonder, like they seen the character in WCW, and if they seem like they could have went farther, but WCW was just dropping the ball, why didn't they bring him in like that? Kind of the same thing with Mick Foley. Like, why didn't they bring him in as um, this? Bring him in as a character that would be kind of like Cactus Jack, but call him something else. Like, I don't know, just call him Cactus or something like that, and have him come in and wrestle as basically the same character he had in WCW because he was super over. He had great matches with Vader in WCW and in Japan and things, and um, I think he could have done a lot uh, as far as coming in as the Cactus Jack character and not having to go through the Mankind. But like I said, if we look back in the storylines, they were pretty good. That was one thing I think that if you could pick the goofiest gimmick that WWE ever had, Mankind would probably be one of the goofier gimmicks that got over. Another one is Duke the Dumpster Drosy. He kind of got over too, but they didn't ever went farther with him. I think he could have went kind of farther if he would have shed the gimmick. And I think that's what it comes down to too, is that when you have a guy who's getting over and the gimmick is kind of goofy and you know that he can't get past a certain level being that character, you have to come to a point where somehow he has to get out of that character and into a normal character to where he could get pushed to the moon. I think Duke Drosy could have done a lot in the company. I think he probably could have did something pretty decent. And also Man Mountain Rock, Max Payne. I was so disappointed when nothing happened with him in WWE. I was so excited with him in WCW, and when I heard and when I seen him show up on, I think, Wrestling Challenge or whatever, and they were debuting his gimmick, I'm just like, awesome. He's coming to WWE. I'm like, maybe they'll do something with him. And I was so disappointed because him and Jack had a tag team, and I think they held the belts, I thought, at one time in WCW, or at least came close to winning them. And I was very disappointed that Man Mountain Rock didn't get over the way he should have, and I think they could have found a different gimmick to put him on that would have got him over. But some people, they didn't even give an opportunity to have a different gimmick. They just throw him on there, it didn't work, then they just released you. Which is sad because I think if you see something in a character, you definitely need to rebrand them, regroup them. They don't do a lot of that now. It seems like they do kind of what they did back then, where if they throw you out there and you don't get over as a certain gimmick, they kind of give up on you. Minus like legacy people like Bray Wyatt and who's the other person? Bo Dallas, because they know you have it in you, to be a great superstar. I mean, yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy. So leave comments down below anything about people that you thought in WWE that should have went higher than what they did. Doink the Clown's another one. He probably should have went farther too. Um, and yeah. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and always thank you for checking out Breakdown for all your wrestling content. And I'll be trying to upload more content. It's just kind of been kind of hectic, and also focusing on the main channel over at Brad Tragic. It's kind of keeping me busy. I kind of threw, I think the last review I put on both channels because I'm trying to kind of start something like that where I put a little bit of wrestling content over there, but mainly keep it on here. But kind of just to cross promote both channels. So, anyways, as always, keep rocking and keep on watching wrestling.